Hey everyone, it's Tony. Well, San Diego Comic-Con was going on, and of course, with the recent trend of bringing back nostalgic properties, Nickelodeon was nice enough to give us previews of 2 new TV movies that are coming out for the rest of 2017 and 2018. These are Hey Arnold and Rocko's Modern Life.
I don't think we're in the 90s anymore.
But this got me thinking. Well, since Joe Murray's back at the helm doing Rocko, what was the production history of Rocko in general? Heck, what is the mindset of creating cartoons in the mind of Joe Murray like in general? Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have the answer. We have here creating animated cartoons with character. I think this is a great book. Let's take a look and find out why. Released in 2010 by Watson & Goldtip, Creating Animated Cartoons with Character is a guidebook written by Joe Murray about developing, producing, and making your TV, web, or for any other online means. What's interesting about this book is it actually is a history of the production of Rocko and Camp Lazlo, as well as a guide. And there's also a small history of Joe Murray's animation career, dating all the way back from the late 70s up to the early 90s, and even heading more into the current age. There's also a small brief history of animation in television in general, dating back from the 40s and 50s all the way to current age as well. Another thing I actually like about this book is there's a lot of interviews. There's interviews with people like Everett Peck, Tom Warburton, Tom Kenny, Stephen Hillenburg. Just a lot of creators they brought aboard who were friends of Joe Murray's, who were able to do interviews, Q&As with them. So, overall, if you are a huge Rocko's Modern Life fan, this may be a book for you because there is a lot of production notes, there is a lot of production storyboards, there's just a lot of good artwork for this show that's in here. There's also a lot of stuff for Camp Lazlo, which I also recommend if you're a big Camp Lazlo fan. They go over a little bit of the behind-the-scenes production of Camp Lazlo. So, if you do come across this book, I do recommend it. If you are an animation fan at heart, this is also a must recommend. This is Tony, I'm signing out. I'll see you all next time. Take care, everyone. Hey guys, it's Tony. This is kind of a bonus segment I wanted to add at the end of this episode because I had recently, not really at the time of this recording, maybe about a week or so, or a couple days after the time of this recording, or well, before, whatever. I had just seen the trailer for Rocko's Modern Life Static Cling, and so I figured I'd give my thoughts on it, as well as give my further thoughts on the Joe Murray book, because I feel like in this episode I didn't really explain much of it, but I'm just gonna, I'll get the thoughts on the book out of the way first. The book is very difficult to kind of describe because it is a step-by-step process. It is Joe Murray telling you basically the whole animation process, from idea to pitch to production to finally being on the air or finally being distributed. So it's kind of difficult to explain it. Well, I guess I just did, but just to explain it in that way. But everything else I said, in the review is 100% correct to what I said. It does have a retrospective in some way on the production of Rocko. It actually goes into a little bit of character, the history of certain characters, like one of my favorites, Dr. Hutchison. who was introduced in the dentistry episode from season 1, Brinson Spit. The whole point of her character was because Nickelodeon wanted a female character in the show that would have a good hook. And I believe, from what I read, it was Doug Lawrence who jokingly stated that she actually has a hook. Get it? Good hook. So, actually funny now that I keep thinking about it, but yeah, so it goes into stuff like that. Again, the book, the Q&As, they're great. You got Everett Peck, you got Craig McCracken, Tom Kenny, Stephen Hillenburg. It's just great. But that's the book. But onto the trailer now, since that's what I added this bonus segment for. So, the trailer, from watching it, something that Scoutfly brought up, and if you're interested, check out his channel. He did a reaction to the trailer, which was pretty funny, because he did bring up some things that I didn't even think about at first, but looking back now, I did now consider. This is the first time we've seen the gang in HD. We haven't seen Rocco in HD beforehand, because most of the episodes that were made back in the 90s were made before high definition actually came out, before it was actually probably implemented in most television, 93 to 96. So, this is the first time we've seen the characters in HD, and of course Nickelodeon never upscaled the original episodes when they rebroadcast them now on the Splat or, on the DVD releases. So it is kind of a little interesting to see, the gang in HD. So that's one thing. But other than that, the humor is spot on. It feels like watching Rocco. The characterization is still there. I think the one thing I really do like about this story, and if you're hearing this weird buzzing, that's from my computer. It's speaker interference, because I have the camera set up like this. One thing I like, though, is gosh, I lost my train of. Oh, the whole basic, from what we got from that clip, the whole premise so far is the gang shows up 20 years later. 20 years from the events of the the ending of the series. And so they're now experiencing the 21st century. And Filbert and Heifer immediately, within probably a couple hours, just immediately get used to it and are enjoying it. Rocco, from what it seems, is trying to adjust but can't really do it, and is kind of having a what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of a shock to how the world has become, or to how technology has advanced, and how he can't. There's a quote he made when they were talking about the O-phone, the iPhone joke, but he brings up something funny. He's like, "This is a phone? Where are the buttons?" That was great. But the animation in the special is good. The humor is good. Characterization's there. They got all the actors back: Tom Kenny, Carlos Alazraqui, and Doug Lawrence as the three main characters. So, and then Charlie Adler is there for the big heads, and Joe Murray will be back, I guess, from what I heard, as Ralph. Given what we'd heard, so that'll be great, because Ralph was another one of my favorite characters from Rocco. But the best quote I could feel to summarize just the overall feeling the movie's gonna give is it's in the beginning of the clip of the trailer, and it's the gang. They come home, they're all celebrating and stuff. Rocco peeks out from the bushes, and he just looks out and is in kind of just realizes what's going on, and he calls over Heifer and Filbert and says, fellas, I don't think we're in the 90s anymore. And that's the best way to describe it, is feeling like that whole idea that these characters have been separate from time for the last 20 years, that showing up in 2017 coming off of 96 is just so jarring to them. But that's the feeling that they're trying to get across, is that these characters are now having to adapt to this. And I am looking forward to this TV special. I really am. It comes out 2018. So, this and Hey Arnold are the two things I actually am looking forward to watching on Nickelodeon, which is kind of jarring. Because the only thing right now I'd watch on Nickelodeon is The Loud House. That's because it's probably the one show on Nickelodeon I actually care about and actually have respect for. Coming off of the fact that they just canceled Harvey Beaks. So, but yeah, I wanted to give my thoughts on Static Cling because, I was planning to do this originally with an update video, but it didn't work out the way I thought it would. So I figured I'd attach it to the end of this episode. So you guys are getting to see this clip after the credits, after everything. So this is Tony. I'm signing out. I'll see you guys next time when we talk about more cartoons, of course. Take care, everyone. Hey guys, it's Tony. When talking about animation, everyone often talks about their influences. For me, my influences are people like Matt Groening, Trey Parker, Matt Stone, Mike Judge, John Kricfalusi, amongst many others. But their influences are usually the animators that came out during the 30s to the 50s. The ones that were responsible for creating what was considered the golden age of animation. These would be people like Leon Schlesinger, Walt Disney, Jay Ward, amongst many others on their own kind. But one that I know a lot of people often point to, especially Groening and Kricfalusi, is the Fleischers. And what an important topic to talk about, than to talk about the Fleischers' most important work, well, next to Betty Boop, Popeye the Sailor. But I'm talking about a certain era of Popeye. And this era, particularly to me, is my favorite era of all time when it comes to those shorts. Of course, I'm referring to 1933 to 1938. Now, I know what you're saying. Really? That era of Popeye? No shit. Everyone loves that era. Well, I have my own particular reasons for liking that era. I'm going to list off all three of my reasons, actually, in particular. But first, I gotta give a little bit of a backstory in the history of the character, as well as how the Fleischers got involved with making the shorts. Created in 1929 by Seagar, Popeye was originally meant to be a supporting character in a story arc involving ham gravy and castor oil for Thimble Theater. But after Popeye's story arc ended, a lot of fans were upset and wanted to see the character return, much to the surprise of Seagar. So starting in 1930, he became a main recurring character. And eventually in 1931, he ended up becoming the main character overall in the series, replacing Ham Gravy as Olive's boyfriend. Now cut to the Fleischer brothers, who in 1930 were getting contracted work from Paramount Pictures to do Coco the Clown and Betty Boop. In 1932, the brothers were looking for something new to do as Paramount contracted them to do another short series. Looking through the comic strips, they came across Thimble Theater and decided that Popeye would make a great cartoon series. And thus history was made, as Popeye would make his first introduction to Betty Boop cartoon in 1933. Now we got that out of the way, let's get on to one of my reasons. The tone. The tone of Popeye is, well, how do I put this? Very urban. Very jazz-centric. You gotta realize, these came out during the 1930s. At this point, jazz was the big thing. Now, some of the character archetypes in these shorts may be deemed a little racist or sexist for the period. But if you took all those elements out, these shorts would still in some way, shape, or form hold up, because they're just that universal. The interesting thing about these shorts, like I said, is the tone, the feeling of being in New York urban. In fact, that's what kind of made them unique, for the most part during that era. Let's be honest, in the last 80 years, Popeye's formula has been kind of repetitive. I mean, the idea of Popeye and Bluto fighting over olive oil, well, good. You could tell has been done a lot. But what I gotta give these original shorts credit is that they sometimes played around with that concept. There's shorts where Bluto doesn't even appear. There are shorts when there's no one to fight. There are shorts when it's just Popeye and Olive Oil sometimes just trying to give each other a hard time. Sometimes Wimpy makes an appearance, sometimes he doesn't. That's what made these shorts unique. For example, there is a short in which Pluto actually gives Popeye spinach, just because the two of them miss fighting each other. Now come on, that is unique. That is really, really unique. But other than story, there's one more reason I love Popeye, or at least this era of Popeye. I'm just gonna come flat out and say it right now. The animation in Popeye is really, really fluid, and this is my main reason I love these original shorts. It's just how fluid they can be. You gotta realize, the Fleischers did these out of Miami and out of New York, and just the fact that they had the ability to keep the animation that fluid, to keep the animation always moving, to keep everyone always jittering around, moving around, regardless of any way, shape, or form they could do it. It's just astounding. What also makes this work pretty well is that sometimes the animation can go a little wonky or go a little weird. And it's not to say it's an animation error, that's just to say that's them throwing a joke out there. For example, there could be times when Popeye could be squeezed to his absolute limit where he could turn into a beet. Why? I don't know. You figure that one out. There are other times in which they will just play off a joke based on one of their tattoos. It's hilarious. What makes me love these original shorts is the design and is the fluidness. This is what made the 30s shorts good. So, what happened? What killed all of this? Well, I guess it's time to talk about the Fleischers' inevitable fate and what Paramount eventually did to Popeye in the 40s and 50s. Well, like what they say with most great companies, what came up eventually had to go. And with the Fleischers, 1938 was going to be their last golden era. What followed afterwards was success and failure. The success of Gulliver's Travels being the first golden animated feature following the ban of Walt Disney, Paramount commissioned them to do it. This would become 1941's Mr. Bug's Town. Unfortunately, this film was critically panned and was a box office failure due to World War II back. And while after this, Paramount decided to take over the Fleischer studio and revamp it, thus making famous films. What ended up happening was the Betty Boops and Popeyes that came following in the 1940s and 50s would be severely downgraded. Not really in terms of animation, but in terms of story. They essentially decided to take the urban environment of Popeye and put it in the suburban Midwestern American town. Yeah, Popeye and Olive Oil ended up going from living in the urban streets of New York to the suburban streets of Sweet Green. The whole point of this is that I wanted to just give you a small example of why I felt that these shorts, the original shorts from 33 to 38, were in some ways more superior than the ones that came afterwards. And don't get me wrong, the ones from 1938 to 1942 are good. The World War II era cartoons are good. They're just not as good as these ones. If you're ever curious to actually want to find these, I recommend picking up this Popeye Sailorman Golden Collection Volume 33 to 38. This has all the original shorts as well as a lot of good bonus features. Well, that's everything for now. This is Tony. I'm signing out. I will see you all next time.
I'm Popeye the Sailor Man. I'm Popeye the Sailor Man. I'm strong to the finish, 'cause I eats me spinach. I'm Popeye the Sailor Man.
Hello, this is Tony. And let me start off by saying, yes, I had recently gotten the new 2DS XL. And let me tell you, I'm really loving it. I love the big screen, I love having the C-stick. If I had a couple of gripes, it might be over the stylus and the fact that it uses micro SD instead of SD cards. Yeah, when I found that out, I was really kind of pissed. But since we're on the subject of Nintendo DS in general, I want to talk about an aspect of the DS that no one actually talks about. That's the animated shorts. Yes, there were animated shorts for this console. While there was technically a grand total of about 7, I mainly want to focus on the ones that were made for the 3DS, not the ones that were made for the DSi. So that really relegates us to 4 shorts, and I will be reviewing all 4 shorts. So here we go. So before I get everything started, I just want to say flat out, I might as well say this now, I'm not the biggest Pikmin fan. Now don't get me wrong, I love the game series, but just it's one of those things where I'd never get around to playing it, and even if I did, I would eventually give up playing it. But with that said, the shorts are decent. They're not great, but they're not bad either. The shorts center around the Pikmin helping Captain Olimar fix his ship so he can leave and head back to Earth. And let me tell you, there are some scenarios in these shorts that are freaking dark. Yeah, there's a short in which a Pikmin thinks that Olimar is eating up one of their brethren. It is really dark. But other than that, the shorts are really well animated, and the stories are okay, like I said. It's something where I'm not a big Pikmin guy, but other than that, I do find the shorts relatively enjoyable. So, yeah, Pikmin is okay, but I know the next 3 are going to be just as good. So, let me start off by saying here's something interesting you probably never knew. Kirby Right Back At You was an anime series from Japan that was translated over to the US and was aired on Fox. The show ran for 100 episodes, and there was really no good conclusion that was ever made for the series. The series got canceled. Well, someone at Nintendo must have really loved the show because it came back for 101. That's right. Kirby Right Back At You episode 101 is our next short we're looking at. And let me tell you, I got a few things I love about it, and I got a few things I hate. So let me get across the way. I love the animation, I love the story, and I just overall just love the humor of it. I think this is probably one of the funny ones I've seen. While not as funny as the next 2 we'll talk about, it is still pretty funny. And it's kind of interesting, too, to think that this really came out of a show that was canceled over a decade ago. And the fact that they decided to continue onward just with this new special. And yes, technically I do consider this episode 101. So that's all the good stuff. The bad stuff is you don't really get to hear much of the intro. And I understand a lot of people didn't like the intro. The intro was kind of annoying, but damn it, it was catchy. It was really fucking catchy. But those are just my little gripes. Other than that, I really love this short, and I really love overall the whole series. I love Kirby Right Back At You. I was kind of sad that we never got a DVD release of that. So, yeah, Kirby Right Back At You is a good show, and if you find this short on the Nintendo eShop, pick it up. It's a good watch. Yoshi's Woolly World is cute. Okay, let me get that out of the way first. Yoshi's Woolly World is cute. The idea that they would have made a port of it for the DS is insane, but the fact that they did it was even funnier. Yoshi and Poochie's Woolly World for the DS was a really good game. A really good one, and what made it even better was the animated shorts. Now the interesting thing about these shorts is these were not available on the eShop. These were actually on the game, and you can constantly unlock them every day. The whole idea of this was that every day you visit the theater, a new short would open up. You'd watch the short, answer a few questions, and if you got the questions right, you got some beads. So the idea of basically playing a Mario Maker type dynamic with waiting for shorts is kind of interesting. Unless you know someone who decided to upload every single short, which by the way, there were 30 of these shorts up on YouTube in one giant compilation. And that compilation itself lasts about a good 20 minutes. And all these shorts just have one thing in common. They're fucking cute. These are cute shorts. They have cute designs, cute stories, cute characters. It's just overall hilarious. My favorite character in these shorts is Poochie. It's hilarious just to see how badly Poochie will go through this hassle of either trying to hang out with the Yoshis or just trying to get something to eat. It's really, really funny. These maybe are my second favorite shorts that ever came out for the 3DS. And just the fact that there were 30 of these things that were spread out within a month, that all compiled together equaled out to about 20 minutes of footage, is awesome. And this is all done in stop motion. This isn't CGI. So Yoshi and Poochie's Woolly Worlds are very, very, very adorable shorts. And if you have a tendency for cuteness, I really do recommend watching these shorts. You will get a kick out of them. If you're someone who loves a good dose of slapstick, these are a good dose of slapstick. But there is one short left that I have to talk about. And this short is my absolute favorite of all time. If you haven't been able to tell by this point, and man, it's been 3 years, you should have gotten a clue by now, I really love anime. And the last short that I'm going to talk about really centers around that. It's Palutena's Revolting Dinner, which came from Kid Icarus. This short is probably one of my favorite shorts for the 3DS of all time. Why? The animation is beautiful, the story is hilarious, the characters are funny. It's just overall a pleasant short to watch, and I could watch it over and over again. The story behind the short is that Palutena is trying to make dinner for her and Pit. She puts some rejuvenating potion on some carrots, but accidentally pours a little too much, thus making the carrots sentient. The carrots find out that Palutena is about to cook them for dinner, so they end up gathering around a bunch more vegetables, putting more potion on them, and thus explaining to them what the hell's going on. Palutena eventually has to go into war with all these vegetables in order to try to make dinner. I'm not going to spoil the ending because the ending is absolutely perfect. It's a perfect way to go out. But other than that, these shorts are awesome, and it was no wonder that Nintendo hired this company again to do the animation for the character introductions for Smash, especially for Palutena. And before you ask, yes, there are 2 more shorts with Kid Icarus. There's a CGI short and there's another anime short. I really do love this short, and if you do ever come across this short on the 3DS, get it. Doesn't matter how much it costs, just get it. Even if you don't like Kid Icarus, the animation alone is worth it. So with that said, I reviewed every 3DS short, and this is Tony. I'm signing out. I will see you all next time. Anniversaries. Everyone has had an anniversary in the last couple of years, or has an anniversary coming up. This year was Mickey Mouse's 89th anniversary. In 2020 will be Mario's 35th anniversary. In 2021 will be Zelda's 35th as well. This year is Kirby's 25th anniversary. This is also Nickelodeon's Nickelodeon's 40th anniversary. Anniversaries are a huge milestone for most people, for most companies, for most shows, for most movies, for most games. In fact, we're going to be celebrating an anniversary ourselves. Next year is TVC Studios' 10th anniversary. But when talking about anniversaries, one of the things I often love to talk about is collections. Now, when it comes to TV shows and movies, they'll often do a re-release, or we'll do a special edition of a certain season or a certain movie. For example, Back to the Future, for their 25th anniversary in 2010, re-released the original trilogy as well as the animated series on DVD and Blu-ray. When it came to The Simpsons' 20th anniversary all the way back in 2010, they decided to release the 20th season on DVD and Blu-ray.
With games, what they'll do is they'll sometimes port what they consider the best games onto one special edition. Now, there's been a few exceptions to this. Like, for example, Mario's 30th anniversary, they decided to do Super Mario Maker. For Sonic's 10th anniversary, they re-released Sonic on the Game Boy Advance. For Sonic's 15th anniversary, though, Sonic 06. My point being that any anniversary of a game could have both positive and negative connotations. Which gets me to my subject of why I consider this to be a lot better than this. To get things started, this came out for Mario's 25th anniversary all the way back in 2010. And this is nothing else than another port of Super Mario All-Stars. It contains the 4 original Mario games, and that's pretty much it. That's right, no Mario World, no Mario 64, no Mario Sunshine. I can understand Mario Sunshine not being on there since technically the Wii was capable of playing GameCube games, but Mario World and Mario 64, I had the feeling that this came about because of the Wii Virtual Console and the Wii Shop. And truth be told, if that was the reason, I would not be surprised. But there is an interesting story behind that. Super Mario All-Stars was re-released twice in the 90s. There was the original version, which came out in 1993, and then they did a special edition in 1995. The special edition came out with Super Mario World added on. Now, here's what I don't get. Why this version has the original version of Super Mario All-Stars, and not the second version. The only thing that came to my mind was Mario, the whole team behind Mario were probably busy working on Mario Galaxy 2, and were working on Super Mario 3D Land and 3D World, and no one thought about the 25th anniversary. Or Nintendo was trying to rush it out to celebrate and capitalize on the anniversary collection, and just decided to throw Super Mario All-Stars on there. And the funny thing is, there's no other bonus material with this. There's no other extra games, no other extra content, nothing. No box art, no history of, no exclusive clips or anything. Mario Maker did some exclusive clips for the 30th anniversary of Mario, but those were also locked content that you had to unlock through finding codes. Now, compare that to Kirby's 20th anniversary Dream Collection. This contains the first 6 Kirby games, from the 92 released Kirby's Adventures, all the way up to 2000's Kirby 64. So that's already 2 more than this in terms of games. This also came with interactive box art, the history of Kirby, and the thing that makes this my favorite, 3 exclusive episodes of Kirby Right Back at You on the game disc that you can watch. 3 episodes. They chose 3 episodes at random. The pilot episode, episode 18, and episode 63, I believe, was the last one. For this to be that dedicated to throw episodes of an anime series, one that hasn't been seen in over a decade, that I have to give them props for. They were able to pull that off more than this was able to pull that off. Now, I understand they weren't going to be able to do Super Mario Bros. Super Show or any of the DEEK-produced content, but I also believe that they couldn't do the anime-related content with Mario. But something. What they technically did here is they took Mario Brothers from Super Mario Brothers 3, the whole challenge section where you could battle player 2 to get extra cards and power-ups. They took that and made that quote-unquote a bonus feature, which, well, it wasn't. But then the more I thought about it with those 2 sets, the more I thought about other anniversary collections, thus bringing me to Mega Man Legacy Collection and Mario Party The Top 100. Technically, this couldn't be considered an anniversary collection, but because Mario Party's 20th anniversary is next year, I'm considering it. This game is okay. It's not the best, but it's not the worst. But I will agree with a lot of fans. This should have been ported to the Switch instead of the 3DS. Having discussions about this with my friends, we all came to that agreement. Everyone came to that agreement. It's not a bad idea to have it on the 3DS. I mean, you could do Fire Emblem Warriors. They had it on both the Switch and the 3DS. But this, just being a 3DS exclusive, come on, Nintendo. I thought you were better than that. This, on the other hand, was the first 6 Mega Man games from the NES. Now, add along with that, they threw in a bunch of bonus content. Original sketches, box art, advertisements, you name it. Now, there's nothing about the Mega Man anime as well as the animated series. That's fine. I can deal with that. I'm just going to say, though, that this will never compare to what Kirby did. It'll be a close second, but it'll never come as close. This isn't bad, but it doesn't really have much in bonus content. I mean, the most it has is it'll just show you covers of all the games, all 10 of them, but they don't really do anything else with it, and it's kind of sad. So, when it comes down to an anniversary collection, I feel like if you added in a bunch of stuff, at least for the fans, that would be really great. But if you're just going to port something that's already been ported not once but twice already, then what's the point of even doing an anniversary collection in the first place? This one's okay. This one's okay. I don't have a problem with this, but Nintendo could have tried better. This is my favorite anniversary collection game of all time. Just for the mere fact that they were able to throw in Kirby Right Back at You on there. Something that, like I said, no one has seen in a decade. The last time anyone's seen that show was in 2006. So, I guess it depends on what you're looking for. If you're just looking for the games, this is fine. You're not going to get all of them, but hey, it's fine. This is also fine too. Just not going to want to go out and get a 3DS because, well, there's no point as much at this point. This is fine as well, but there's already Mega Man Legacy Collection 2, which contains Mega Man 7 through 10. And you can technically get that for the Xbox One and the PS4. This, however, is very hard to come by, and if you do come across it, get it. It's well worth the money. Paid $30 for my copy, and let me tell you, it's hours upon hours of fun. This is Tony. I'm signing out, guys. I'll see you all next time. It's Tony, and man, I'm starting to think this is becoming a yearly tradition, at least for the last 3 years now. It seems like every year I end up tasting some kind of new drink that comes out, either from Coke or from Pepsi. We're doing it again. Third time's the charm. Actually, we got 2 of them today. We got
Mountain Dew Holiday Blast, and Salted Caramel Pepsi. So we're gonna try both of these out, and oh, I'm curious to see what these taste like. So I got these both from Stewart's. No one from Pepsi or Stewart's is affiliated with this video, letting you know that right now. No one is. Doing these just based on my own curiosity. So I'm gonna just start out with the Salted Caramel Pepsi, and here we go. That was a bad idea. That was a real bad idea. And now the Mountain Dew Holiday Brew. That was a nice resounding pop. I have to give it that. Good. Sense a little more of the Code Red than the regular Mountain Dew. But not bad. So, if you're looking for something festive this holiday season, Pepsi offers these two drinks. I recommend Holiday Brew, but I am not recommending this salted caramel. But you know what? Just for safety precautions, I'm going to give one more sip of this, just because. Maybe it was just my taste buds. So, here we go. Yeah, that was a complete mistake. I would not get this unless you really have interesting taste buds. But those were two of Pepsi's newest flavors. Yeah. I can't believe this became a yearly tradition. But this is Tony. I'm signing out. I will see you all again next time. Merry Christmas, everyone, and a happy holidays. Hey everyone, it's Tony, and well, since it is Valentine's Day, and it's the time for love, romance, yada yada yada, etc., I figured I would try something different this year. Now 2 years back, actually now 4 years back, wow, I did an episode for Ransom Reviews, titled Love Is It Really Out There, and I kind of discussed, at that point in time, the current dating scene, and how romance, especially during that period, was reflected. Now, my opinions since that episode went out have somewhat changed a little bit, mainly because, of course, I got older and became more mature. Kind of ironic, but still. So my feelings on the whole subject kind of changed a little, and I figured for today's episode, instead of talking about a show or a movie or a game or a top 10 list or anything like that, I would try to be a little more personal. Now, a few things. One, my dating history is
long, but it's not too long. It's relatively 8 years. 8 years of dating, and currently I have no one. I'm going out with no one. So essentially I'm covering everything from like 2010 to 2016. And I know that seems long, but it's not really that long. In essence, it's about 6 years. The second thing is anything before 2010 was, when we were kids. And, when you're a kid, when you have feelings for someone, it's more like puppy love. It's more like infatuation, but not actually being in love. I've had my fair share of crushes, and I've had my fair share of heartbreaks over crushes. But, in my perspective, during those periods of time, I didn't get the sensibility enough to move on. I eventually did, but at that point in time, I did not. So there are some stories that I don't really want to talk about because, I don't know, I didn't really feel like they were necessary enough. The most I could say is I had crushes. I had my heart broken a couple of times during that period, but eventually I learned to move on from that. Was I upset? Sometimes yes, but other times I just turned the other cheek and moved on. So that's the other thing. And finally, some of the names I'm going to change, mainly because I don't really want these people to be stalked or harassed. I have no grudges against these people currently, nor did I really in the past. I think any anger that I had in the past, at the time, probably wasn't really justified. It mainly was just me trying to go through the emotions to try to calmly resolve any inner conflict I had to deal with. So, with those said, I guess we start all the way back in 2010. In the fall of 2010, I was starting my freshman year of high school. And when you start your freshman year of high school, you're still developing, of course. You're still becoming a teenager. You're still getting into those notions of, what your future will hold. You're not getting to that point, though, where you're fearing it. You're getting to that point where you're just starting to think about it. You're not fearing it, you're thinking about it. But we had a lot of new students in that year. A couple in our class, a couple below us, a couple ahead of us. Just a lot of new people. And I ended up crushing on one of the new students in our class. We'll call her Daisy. She was a short, sweet, rural girl, countryside. She loved tractors, loved working on her parents' farm, etc. Very sweet. I eventually somehow grew enough gusto to ask her out, and she said yes, surprisingly for how shy she was. And we were going out for a while. The relationship was a little shaky, mainly because she was still trying to get used to the area, and at the time I was still trying to get through some hurdles that I had been going through in terms of maturity and trying to understand my feelings at the time. But somehow we kind of kept it working, at least for about a month and a half. Where we lovey-dovey like everyone, usually would think high school kids would be, not really. She was so shy that she just never attempted at the time, and I, at the time, was kind of upset, but now looking back, I can understand. Eventually, we kind of hit a snag in the relationship. We've had a few of them, but nothing as big as what ended up ending the relationship. At that point in time, this would have been now, I want to say early to mid-November, so somewhere in that period. I don't know, I think we just realized something wasn't working, and I was talking to a friend of hers, who was a grade below us, of course, and I don't know, we seemed to really hit it off, and it got her jealous and led to us, in some ways, kind of arguing, and then I just ended it because I knew, there was no way we were going to get out of this. So that's how that one ended. And the thing is, I think afterwards she ended up dating a friend of mine, and they became more acquainted, better acquainted than we were. And that's good. And they're still together today, and I'm kind of happy for them. More or less. So that was the end of Daisy. The next one was the friend I was talking about. I was talking to a friend of hers, and we were hitting off pretty well. We're gonna call her Georgia. Georgia was a little more eccentric. She wasn't way too eccentric, but she was a little more eccentric. But she was a nice, sweet girl. She was a grade below us, and for some reason it seemed like it clicked at first. And after a while, it really did kind of click. We were, really romantic, but kind of romantic, kind of in that weird, you're kind of in the midpoint where you're holding hands, but you're not really, kissing or anything in public, but, we did at least that level of a relationship. We never hit any snags. That was the one relationship where it didn't hit any snags until post the relationship. But during the relationship, never a snag. Never. Our relationship ended sadly on I want to say on the fact that her parents did not like me. At the time I had really long hair, and when they first met me they thought I was a bum. They thought I was someone who was a bad boy, someone who was gonna get her in trouble. And looking back now, I could kind of see where they're coming from, but at the same time, I think they judged a little too hard before actually getting to know me, and I really wish they would have given it a second chance, but there's nothing I could really do now. So our relationship kind of ended around the holiday season, post-holiday season, right around that period, ended December, started January, and after that, she ended up also dating a friend of mine, and then she broke his heart at the end of the year, and then we never heard from her again. And the snag we hit afterwards was I was attempting, and I will now say I kind of feel dumb for doing this, but I was attempting to try to ask her younger sister out. She was a grade below her. I was attempting to ask her out, and they both found out, and when I talked to them, they were both pretty upset. And it's the first time, and at this point the only time, I'd actually ever been slapped by a girl. And let me tell you, that's a moment that resonates with you for years, and it still does. It's still one of those shocking moments that I never really got over. Not angrily got over, but it just leaves an impact on you. But that was the end of Georgia. After her came Christy. Christy was someone I actually knew once prior. Back, remember, pre-2010, the puppy love era. I had met her in 6th grade, and we were infatuated with each other. We were in love, kind of in love, but kind of a hit and miss. She was actually my first kiss back in 6th grade, and then she left, and we did not hear from her until freshman year. So she comes back, and the first time we actually kind of caught back up, I was actually not 100% sure it was her. I had to have a friend of mine tell me, and then I was like, oh my god, like, it just never clicked, 2 and 2, But what ended up happening was we somehow hooked up. I don't know. I think she had feelings for me, and I kind of had feelings for her at the time. I didn't really dig deep to think about it at that period, but so we kind of went out, and the thing was, everyone made fun of us for that. Everyone did, because, you know, she was not a popular person. She was the person that would probably get made fun of a lot during high school. And so it kind of took a strain on both of us, and I would say maybe after about a month and a half, we kind of ended it, just because we wanted to, you know, just relieve some of the embarrassment from both of us that we were getting and the heckling from our classmates. So our relationship ended on heckling, and I'm gonna put her off to the side for now, because trust me, she'll come back into play later. So after her, there was maybe about, I want to say, 3 to 4 weeks between January and March. So we'll say most of February, where there was a part of me that was trying to win back Daisy, but, you know, it did not work out. Didn't happen. And then, you know, the whole incident with Georgia and her sister, that also happened. So now we move into March, and yeah, the next person I ended up with was a greater influence to me than I thought. She would become a greater significance to me. We're gonna call her Anna. Now, I met Anna through friends, of course. She was actually a friend of my cousin's. Not my best friend who's my cousin, my other cousin. And she was shy, similar to Daisy, but I think there was just some innocence with her that I found attractive, and I can't really put my finger on what the innocence was. Maybe the naiveness of her, but her willingness to want to be the best. That might be a little bit of it. I apologize, I'm getting a little choked up, but it's hard kind of thinking about all of it. But yeah, so we ended up starting going out in March, and the scrutiny went from the two of us as a couple to just me. There were some people that were scrutinizing me for wanting to be with her, and I did not care. I blatantly ignored it, and I stood my ground. I said she was nice, I said I liked her, and everything like that. And like, of course, eventually turned into love, and she was the one person I actually probably had the strongest of a connection with, surprisingly enough. And yeah, it just kind of took off from there. It took her family a while to get used to me, and after, I would say, maybe 3 to 4 months, not 3 to 4, maybe 2 to 3, they eventually warmed up. And she was also the longest at that point, and actually to this day, she's the longest relationship I had. Now, our relationship, of course, was technically on and off after this certain period, but for the longest time, it was 6 months straight we were together. From March to September, we were straight away completely together. And then after September, it was kind of on and off for another, God, I want to say at least another 2 years. So altogether, that would have been about 4 years of togetherness. But what ended up happening was, we're gonna bring Christy back into the story here. Just a whole list of circumstances that I caused and we just had inflicted upon us. The first thing was, Her family was still trying to get used to me, like I said. It took them a little while longer to get used to it. It was mainly her cousin. And set the record straight, he's a nice guy. He's a nice guy. Hung out once or twice after all of this, before I even came here. Yeah, just a nice person. Overall, cool kid. But yeah, it was that, and then, like I said, bringing Christy back into the story. Over the summer, I think she come to some conclusion, Christy did, about me, and I don't know, it led to her stopping at our house one afternoon. My best friend was with me. He was just about getting ready to go to a football game, and we had some time to kill. So we were all there, and we figured we'd head off to the back and shoot off some apples. There's an apple tree in my backyard. So we went off to shoot off some apples, and I said, well, there's probably some golf balls in the woods next to my house, but it's a long shot whether or not you're actually going to find anything there. But we went back and we decided to go take a look, and my friend decided to leave us alone. He had to go run and use the restroom. So the two of us are in the back of the woods now, by the fence next to the school. And for some reason, our feelings just kind of came out, and we expressed them, and we kissed, and it just kind of made us both realize that maybe we made the wrong decision of breaking up in the first place, and it was something that just, I don't know, for some reason it just made me like reconsider everything, and in the end, it resulted in me losing Anna and regaining Christy, and then it became me and Christy for a little while longer, for about another, I want to say 2 months, and then we broke up again, but this time it wasn't because of embarrassment, it was because of an argument. I had gotten into an argument with her friend over like the stupidest of questions, and it led to us having an argument as a couple, which led to her leaving me, and that was the last relationship I had, for the most part. The thing was that there were some things we talked about personally that would never be discussed outside of a romantic nature, that she knew, that I also knew, and we didn't want anyone else to know. So it was the whole game of trying to keep quiet about everything until things settled down. And eventually they did. Christy left, and her friend eventually left as well, and it seemed like things were on the up and up. So after that, there was really no other relationship until, God, I want to say the spring of 2013. Yeah, we went a whole long period without a relationship. In the spring, there were kind of 2 one-off flings I had. One downstate from, Posen, and another one in Washington, D.C. Now, these one-off flings were special, but they didn't lead anywhere. And then I came back my senior year in the fall of 2013, and I ended up meeting Keto. Now, the story of all this was, it was my senior year, and we had taken in foreign exchange students, of course, and out of all the foreign exchange students, we had some from Turkey, we had some from Taiwan, we had some from Venezuela, Brazil, but Keto was from Japan, and as you all know, I'm usually infatuated with Japanese culture, and I actually have her to thank for that. At the time, I had not really given it much thought. Now, when I was younger, I watched Cowboy Bebop and all that stuff, and Inuyasha every once in a while, but I had never really given it a lot of thought. Thinking about Japanese culture and heritage, and she was the one who actually introduced me to Doraemon. She was the one who introduced me to Shin-chan and a bunch of other animes and mangas that I eventually grew into loving and, you know, either picked up issues of or ended up watching some of the episodes. Now, the weird thing was, there was a question for a while, and I didn't know if this was true or not, whether or not we did count as a relationship or just as good friends. For a while, I thought it was just like one-sided, like a one-sided relationship. Like, I thought of it as a relationship, but she thought of it as a friendship. And I did not get a full straight answer until maybe Christmas of 2015 on whether or not I was the only one who thought that or we both came to that conclusion. We, at that point in time, had a foreign exchange student at our house who was staying with us, and she got in contact with Kito. And Kito was asked whether or not she remembered me and whether or not we were in a relationship. And the funny thing, to my surprise, was she said yes to both. And that just kind of shocked me a little bit. That I had to like kind of sit for a second and just go, wow, I never thought about that. Mainly because it never dawned on me, but just because for a while, again, I thought it was just one-sided. I thought I was the only one thinking we were in a relationship, while she was thinking, oh, we're just really good friends. But, you know, more you know. Our relationship really ended because she didn't want to go any further, and I was trying, you know, not sexually, but just, you know, romantically. We were trying to push, I was trying to push further, but she didn't want to push it any further. She was fine where she was at, and I did not get that, and after we broke up, it kind of hit me that I'm like, oh, yeah, we were fine where we were at. We didn't need to move any further. And eventually she left and started college. And college, I only had really 2 relationships. And even then, one of them I don't technically count as a relationship. I mean, I count it as a friendship that kind of almost blossomed into a relationship, but it never really went anywhere. The one girl I ended up dating, her name was Chloe. That's what we're going to call her, is Chloe. She was similar to Anna, shy, and somewhat introverted. But she was a nice person, and we kind of hooked up and bonded over our love of Legend of Zelda. And the relationship lasted a couple days, sadly. She just wasn't comfortable with it, and it eventually ended. We remained good friends after that, and it's kind of the way like most of the relationships ended up, just becoming the best of friends. And then after that, there was Cece. I'm gonna call her Cece. Not the brightest one in the box, but she was still a nice person. And really, I was introduced to her by Daisy. Daisy and I went to the same college together. In fact, most of my classmates went to the same college as us. Mainly because, I mean, when you graduate high school, you go to the closest college you could think of. So, but we ended up all going to the same college, and Daisy introduced me to Cece, and like I said, she was a very nice girl. Not the brightest one in the box, but still very nice. And I tried to get a relationship from her, but it didn't seem to click. I got her to go on one date, and I mean, it was nice, but it didn't really go anywhere. So you're probably wondering why I told you all those stories, well, other than just to kind of get my Valentine's history out of the way, but no, I just, look, not every relationship is going to be wonderful, but not all relationships are horrible either. Relationships are a perfect opportunity to learn about your own flaws, as well as the flaws of the person you're with. It's a perfect opportunity to sometimes ask yourself the question, am I right for this person, or is this person right for me? The thing with a relationship is a lot like a track. Every relationship's going to have hurdles. They could be high, they could be low. The whole point to all relationships is to try to jump over those hurdles and make sure you don't lose track of the sight of the goal. Because once you hit the goal, you're going to get rewarded regardless. You know, the reward might be the satisfaction of knowing how much you've matured and understood the relationship, or the reward is the fact that you and your significant other have actually made it as far as you can make it. Every relationship will have a struggle. And there is no such thing as a perfect relationship. Every relationship has some threads that are left dangling. But the purpose of this video was to try to show you how many relationships can actually affect a person. Now, all those relationships in one way or another did affect me. They've made me rethink my whole idea of love and romance. And yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Valentine's Day. I'm not going to really sit there and despise it entirely. I do show a little bit of hope every once in a while. And it's the same thing with romance. I don't hate it entirely. I'm going to show hope every once in a while. You know? And I do sit there and I wish that things would just happen. But you gotta make it happen just as much as you wait for it to happen. I may not be a love expert, but I'm someone who's understood life. And if all these girls taught me something, is that sometimes understanding your own flaws might be a benefit. You may lose the girl, but you're gaining some self-confidence. You may lose the girl, but you're going to understand a little bit more about yourself. Romantically, emotionally, mentally. This has been an interesting experience. I'm Tony. I'm signing out. Everyone have a happy Valentine's Day. I'll see you all next time. Take care, everyone.